were sharing their thoughts on Christopher Luxon this week.
Maybe a bit too conservative for some people.
He's better than the rest of that party, so yeah.
He's superb.
I don't know a lot about him, to be honest, but he seems pretty friendly.
Oh, I like him.
You know, honestly, I don't know much about him at all.
To me, he lacks personality, but he's probably all right.
Fairly good job. Yeah, I expect him to be a bit more active in the lead into the election. Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. Slow start. Slow start.
What's his plans?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a little bit underwhelmed, actually.
Why's that?
Oh, I thought he'd have a lot more to offer, but yeah, it's just kind of same old, same old.
Yeah, so mixed reactions out there, and that's been good. This is a big question I think that's hanging over Christopher Luxon at the moment. Is who is he? Is he failing to fire? Can he do it? What do you think, John Tamahiri?
Oh, I think you put him through a job interview sort of thing, and what I took about it, he has strengths, and one of them is he's very earnest. And comes across as a decent bloke, and so I think that came through quite well. The real question, of course, is substance, and when you start to drill into the substance, he's still struggling to be a politician. Just because you're being a good CEO doesn't mean that you're going to be a rock star when you arrive in the politics, and you'd agree with that, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. Being inexperienced is, like, he keeps saying it's not that important, he hasn't been around Parliament, but it is a big hurdle for him to overcome in a short space of time.
I think that the comparison to John Key isn't necessarily apt.
Yeah.
John Key was a political superstar. He was a generational phenomenon as a National Party leader. Jacinda Ardern was a generational phenomenon as a Labour Party leader. The Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, is not in Jacinda Ardern's league, and Christopher Luxon is not in John Key's league. We've come back down to earth in terms of our political leaders for this election. Look, Luxon did spend a lot of time out of New Zealand, and a lot of his early sort of interviews and discussions referred to overseas experience. But I think, like we took from that interview, he really is kind of getting into the nooks and crannies of New Zealand, the provinces, the small towns, and, I think he's sort of shaping kind of his New Zealand political persona a bit.
We're seeing it in action, Julian.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other issue you had was John Key was able to define himself very easily. He was able to talk about the pain that he could share with other New Zealanders through his upbringing. His inability, Chris Luxon's inability to be able to talk in that way is the reason why people don't understand or know him well enough. He doesn't have the 30-second thing which just deals with it and is done. It feels a little bit like Mitt Romney. He's being defined by other people rather than defining himself, and if he can get that nailed, then we can move on. He hasn't nailed it, and that's why we're still asking some questions.
Yeah, it's a sort of question of authenticity, isn't it? If you can't nail that, then the narrative takes off on you.
Yeah, look, he's learning, okay? He's learning on the game, and you've got to be... instead of trying to inform you and educate you, which is what was happening earlier this morning with you, you've got to get a lot tighter and a lot more fixed. So I'm not saying he's not cutting it. He's still learning very quickly in the job, and he's got to stop trying to educate you. He's got to actually win you over with a range of different sort of...
And he has something of a... it's difficult, right? Because as you pointed out, no transformational policies. But the thing is, you can't lead in transformational policies anymore. What, another Kiwi build? Another light rail? How many transformational policies have we seen just sort of vanish into thin air? And so there's no appetite for that in the electorate, which means it's much harder to define yourself with this kind of big vision kind of stuff.
That's right.
And instead, he's putting together a team which is, has rolled out some pretty sensible, pretty incremental policy, but they have to look more like a sort of a very stable, solid government in waiting, as opposed to, as we saw in 2017, bringing down capitalism and neoliberalism or whatever.
But he could nail this government on. So, he should be nailing this government. So, for example, when he talks about repealing MHA, Māori Health Authority and the like, what are you going to replace that with? Oh, I'm going to distribute the money out to iwi. He should be nailing this government down to the floor on what's happening at the moment, particularly around the new reforms around water and the like. And I don't see a lot of what are the delicate and unique political policy decisions that are going to accrue out of his repeal of a lot of these policies that are affecting a lot of communities. And that's where he should be swimming in at the moment.
I have run out of time for right now, but I'm going to bring you guys back. We can hit it again later in the show.